स्वागत है आप सभी का हिंदी घराना के इस पॉडकास्ट पर जिसका नाम है किताब पे चर्चा। यहाँ हम साहित्य, दर्शन और उन कहानियों की गहराइयों में उतरते हैं जो हमारी दुनिया को आकार देती हैं। आज हमारे साथ हैं व्हाट वी नो अबाउट हर की प्रसिद्ध लेखिका कृपा जी। उनका उपन्यास चेन्नई और बनारस और दिल्ली जैसे शहरों को सिर्फ पृष्ठभूमि नहीं, बल्कि एक जीवंत पात्र के रूप में प्रस्तुत करता है। जहाँ स्मृतियाँ, परंपराएं और बदलते सामाजिक ताने-बाने आपस में गुंथे हुए हैं। हम जानेंगे कि शहरों का साहित्य में क्या स्थान है, हमारे जीवन और पहचान को कैसे आकार देते हैं और कैसे कहानियाँ समय के साथ एक शहर के बदलते चेहरे को दर्ज करती हैं। तो आइए इस रोचक संवाद का हिस्सा बनते हैं और स्वागत करते हैं हमारे मेहमान का। सो वेलकम कृपा जी।
Thank you for the beautiful introduction. आपका खूबसूरत इंट्रोडक्शन के लिए धन्यवाद।
हरियाणा में कहते हैं ना कि अगर आपका कोई तारीफ कर दे तो आप माच के वो काम करते हो, है ना? तो अब मैं इंट्रोडक्शन माच के दिया करूंगा। चलिए।
माच की मतलब?
What does that mean?
बन के और बन के।
अच्छा, whole performance.
हाँ. With that question of how this thought came to your mind, like how
Okay.
which
So,
thing pushed you towards this book, like writing this book?
so your book covers 3 major cities, 2 timelines, and there are different type of narrations. So there are letters, and then there is Yamuna who is writing her own thesis, and then there is perspectives. So like from this character's perspective, from Hata's perspective, from Lalita's perspective, and there are like a wide range of characters from people from 1940s, old men, old women, young girls, and everyone. So how do you manage this complicated plot and you make it so easy? The plot is so easy flowing.
Yes,
So
yes,
how
yes,
did
very-
you manage it? And while you were writing it, how much how much the story changed from the first day to the final draft, and how much you as a person changed?
Quite, that's a great question. I had changed quite a lot because it had been, I was writing almost on and off for 10 years. I was writing the book for over a decade. And so, as you can imagine, I'd undergone major transformation. And in fact, until the book went to print, there were changes being made. In fact, the last thing to come into the book was where I anthropomorphized the house, which is I gave the
Oh.
house a life of its own. That came to me towards the end. Once I was done with the story part of the book, that came to me towards the end. That fact that this house is actually an alive being, the fact that the house has that smell, and the house, it's not just the smell, but the house itself is alive, and the house is sort of speaking in some way through these characters. This idea came to me last towards the end, and that's something. It was triggered by something that happened in my own house, where I could stand in a particular place and I'd be able to smell something, and then it would go off, and then a couple of days later, like I was going nuts trying to figure out what was going on around that time. And I think that's when this idea sort of came to me. But I mean, that's just one part of it. I had changed a lot through the course of these 10 years, because I had gone from being single to being married, and I'd spent a decade with this story, with all of these characters. How I wanted to present this story. My own politicization had happened in a much more intense way. We had gone from UPA 2 to far into
NDA.
the COVID era of NDA. So, so much had changed in those years when I was working on this book. But in terms of how the story came to me, it was through, uh, I think it was through my mother. Oh, she used to tell me quite a bit of, stories, and basically about her own life, and what she had heard, and the kind of women that she had. And and this sort of very the stories that I heard were very domestic in that sense. The stories of the house, stories of the household, stories that didn't usually cross the, they were just happening within the four walls, but so much was,
was happening.
of generational stuff was going on inside those stories,
Mm.
and I think that was really the starting point. My mother narrated my grandmother and grandfather's first meeting to me once, and they were very young. They were barely like 17 and 15 or something like that. Yeah, so they're just like in the
Mm.
Tata and his wife,
Uh,
and so that scene stayed with me for a long time. The fact that he gave her, a garland when he first met her, just as a sign of how he liked her. So then I thought, first I wrote a short story based on this,
mm.
and it was published by. There used to be a lovely magazine. I don't know if they still publish. I have to check it out. I think they've pulled it. It's called Reading Hour, READING HOUR, Reading Hour. They were a Bangalore-based magazine.
Mm.
They were the first magazine to give me a chance. They published this short story, and I can't tell you the thrill of being accepted, and
Wow.
that sort of really pushed me into thinking there is more to this story. And so I kept returning to this story, and then I thought, okay, I need to, I feel like this story is telling me that there's more, and so I kept working on it. And then beyond beyond that short story, what I first wrote was the train journey, because I did the train journey myself.
Mm.
So when I sat down to write what they call the void, or the empty page, I sat down in front of it. That is the scene that sort of unfolded in front of me. The scenes inside the train
Mm.
of this young woman traveling alone. And so, actually, for me, the novel began from there. And then,
Oh.
uh, and after that, it's been an obsession. It was almost as if I was a different person once that idea had come into me.
Mm.
And once I started writing that scene, it was like, okay, I had to get this, and it was like I was exorcising the story out of me. It was like a ghost had
Mm.
put into me, and I had to just literally be the priest and get it out of me. And it was, and then it ended only when the novel got done. Now if you ask me, I might be like, okay, I don't want to look at it anymore, because I saw Kumar Shukla's documentary, and I can't tell you how much I related to. I mean, it's a blasphemy to say I relate to him, but what I mean to say is I related to the sentiment of not feeling like that work is complete, or
Ah.
not feeling like
Yes.
I don't want to revisit it. When I revisit it, I get a headache.
The,
It's like,
the way he put it forward, like he has left so less time and so much to write, and how would he process those things? It's so heart wrenching to listen him saying such things.
what a great, I mean, it was a beautiful documentary, and what a fitting movie to have been made on him. And when I was so moved by it, it was,
That's
yeah.
it,
I
love.
could relate to everything that he says about revisiting your work, or that your relationship with the work never ending, and that in your head it's an ongoing journey. So in your
Mm.
head you're still editing it.
Mm.
Just because the book has come out doesn't mean you've stopped
Yes.
improvising it in your
Mm.
head. And so there are different versions of it playing out in your head even now. Oh, I wish I'd done it like this. You know. So what did you guys think of the film? It was
I haven't watched it. Aditya, have you watched the Vinod Kumar Shukla
That
documentary?
not documentary, that short clip where he says that a lot is pending to do and very less time is there to do.
I watched the whole documentary, and what I was struck by was actually the first couple of quite some time of the film is his son talking.
Mm.
His son who's not a writer. They're saying, see, this man is. I mean, this is basically just like every sentence out of his son's mouth is like wisdom that you want to just write down, and
Uh,
thinking this man is not even started writing yet, and see the things he is saying about art and about these are. I mean, it's. I would definitely recommend it to even to your viewers to go and
It's
check out the.
it's in my watch list actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've saved it for later.
Oh, perfect, perfect.
Oh,
It's a great watch for. It's a short documentary, so it shouldn't
Yes,
take you. So someday when you're eating dinner, when you want something to watch, I would suggest
mm,
that's what I do.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
as
ma'am,
the
yes. So, in
go
this
ahead.
story, in your book, the part of Chennai is pretty obvious, like you belong there. But how Delhi and Varanasi came into the picture?
So, I mean, Delhi, there's not much, but Varanasi, because I was saying this the other day also in an interview. I hadn't thought of this much before, but only of late I've been thinking about this. The first place that I visited outside South India was Calcutta, but I was quite young when I visited Calcutta. It was in 2000 and I was still in school. But as an adult, uh, I hadn't really traveled much growing
Mm,
up. I mean, traveling is now a thing that people do, but like growing up in the 90s, traveling was just, you just, whatever, if you got a chance, you went somewhere, but otherwise, mostly you just stayed at home or in your grandparents' house,
Yes, yes.
right? So it was only in 2009 that I left South India for the first time. I had never
mm,
gone beyond apart from this one visit to Calcutta
ah,
in 2000. I never even left the south of India, and I had just only seen South India. And in 2009, for the first time, I went to UP and Bihar as part of uh, this trip with my mom, and that for so many reasons it had just sort of imprinted on my mind. I'm like a new adult. I'm like newly working and independent, have my own money, and I brought my mother on a trip to Kashi, which is supposed to be this place that is storied. And I'm not much of a believer myself, but I brought my mother along, and I'm just free to do whatever I want. And so I
mm,
got some time to explore, the city, or to just even my own. I had this space and the brain space to sort of take in a new sort of experience. I think that had a big impact on me. And when I had to write about some place, I felt like this is the place I would have liked to write about. This is, I mean, the culture shock of it, right? When you come from the south and then you are
mm,
Varanasi.
in Varanasi, and it is. I wanted to, like. I mean, I don't think I even did justice to that feeling of being there, but it stayed with me. What I
mm,
felt, that feeling just stayed with me. But funnily enough, even if it was so alien, there was a lived-in feeling. It was as if it was not that alien in the sense of, oh, I've
ah,
arrived in the middle of Tokyo. It's still a place
yeah,
where you can
you
you
belong, or
communicate with people. You know some part of you know what the culture is. You know how to act
mm,
around the other person and stuff. So it was both being familiar as well as being unfamiliar, being in a place where you're supposed to be culturally rooted. That is supposed to be the home for
mm,
anybody who dies is supposed to want to go there and to die according
mm,
to your own culture. So I'm thinking when I go there, I see death everywhere, but nobody seems sad. All of these things
uh,
were
They
just
celebrate it actually, yes.
yeah, and it's just all of those images are, and there are paintings on the walls, and the
True, true.
subculture, everything is just completely new to me. So I am taking all of that in, and then I think that just sort of stayed with me. It just never left. And when I had to write, I felt like, yeah, I have to revisit that space, and I think that's what it was. It was the
Actually,
newness.
I have also lived in Varanasi for some time.
Mm,
I think the level of sophistication is very, very low in Varanasi. Like people are very organic and humanly there,
right,
to
right.
which you easily connect. Like somewhere in me, this part lives also, like this way of feeling.
Yeah, yeah, and You
You
can run
have
it
this
to every
story
kind
now.
of people. You can run it every kind of people. Like any
Correct.
community, any person you want, they're there in Kasi. They're waiting for you. They are just because
Yes,
everybody's
yes.
coming there to do.
Always free. They are always free to talk, to connect. Always free. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were going to
So
say something.
I was saying Aditya has this very funny story of a family coming to burn for the last night of their some old person or some relative, and
Mhm.
they offered him chai, the dead person. What was that story?
Yes, एक्चुअली मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगा इसे। हम अक्सर वैसे मणिकर्णिका पे घूमने जाया करते थे। मैं वहाँ पढ़ता था रह के, है ना? तो मेरे दोस्त और मैं रात को मणिकर्णिका जाया करते थे घूमने। तो वहाँ बॉडी रखी थी नीचे और वहाँ लाइन लगती है। दे आर इन क्यू, बॉडीज़ आर इन क्यू। तो चौथी 5वें नंबर की लाइन थी, तो वो खड़े-खड़े बोर हो रहे थे। तो उसमें से 2 लोग चाय पी रहे थे, तो उन्होंने उस बॉडी से पूछा कि चाय पीवा? It was so funny. It was so funny. Like people mourn, they cry on the cremation ground, but they just joke about it and pass it on very lightly.
There's something, some acceptance there.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
so, what I wanted to ask you is that when I was reading your book, I saw a very even in our episode I said it's very Arundhati Rai esque. It feels like you are inspired, or it's like very the writing, the prose and all. So are you? So what are your inspirations when you started writing fiction? Because before this you wrote one non-fiction.
Yeah,
It's Rivers Remember, and then you wrote this fiction book. So
yeah.
what were your major inspirations for fiction?
Actually, it was not Arundhati Roy. More, I would say Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, the Nigerian writer.
Oh,
Actually, one of my biggest inspirations in those years. I read everything that she had written, and I was a big fan of her writing. And Purple Hibiscus, Half of the Yellow Sun, Americana, all of these books, I read, and I was pretty taken by
oh,
the questions she was asking in her book and the kind of um, uh, and the kind of politics that her book dealt with. All of those things were very interesting to me.
hmm,
Apart from Adichie, I would say in recent years, actually, I've really, really enjoyed reading Elena Ferrante.
Elena Ferrante.
Elena Ferrante, yes.
Yes. And in those years that I was writing this book, I think I was also quite taken by a lot of books in translation that were coming
Hmm.
from Indian languages into English. And so um, Jerry Pinto.
Oh,
In those years, I think I was also very taken by the writings of Bama, the Tamil Dalit writer, whose works were being translated quite a lot into English. So um, I was reading mostly in translation actually.
hmm, hmm,
This is something that I've also felt in recent times that the literature that's coming in translation into English,
hmm.
um, there's something very exciting happening there.
Huh.
And that is something that I've always found myself drawn towards.
Hmm.
Trying to think because it's been a while. I'm trying to recollect what books I was reading around that time. I may have to just sort of jog
No.
my influences were like. It's of course. Who can I forget? Gachar Gochar, Vivek Shanbag's Gachar,
Oh,
Charcha Gojal,
right?
yes.
yes.
Uh,
Ratnakar Matkari.
okay.
He writes horror majority, like very socio-political horror. So I thought he's
Uh,
really good.
oh, right, right. Okay, I haven't read.
And Yashwant Chittal, I think his name is Yashwant Chittal. Shikari is one Malayalam novel. Shikari, I really liked it.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
Let me make a note of it. Shikari.
Shikari is really good.
Oh, nice. Interesting.
It's based in 1990s,
Okay.
and the globalization is just starting.
Mm,
So there is a whole perspective of how globalization and this capitalism is going to affect
mm,
the country,
mm.
and it's
Corporate.
very Kafkaesque.
Oh,
very
wow.
Kafkaesque,
Okay.
very Kafka. So it's very nice. It's the translation. It's not up to the point. It needs some work, but
Okay.
yes, it's very good. It's a really good novel.
Very nice. Okay.
Um,
I'll
so
check that out. Yeah. Yeah. In those years, I'd also read a lot of other writers like Chinua Achebe, the other
oh,
Chinua
Chinua Achebe.
Achebe, and I used to really love. I haven't read Kazuo Ishiguro in a while, but
uh, uh,
Kazuo Ishiguro was one of my absolute favorites. His, Pale View of Hills, his first book.
hmm,
Then the other book in which he's the butler. The main character is a butler. Wait, let me just Google that for you. Remains of the Day, Remains of the Day, and
Remains of the Day.
yeah, and an artist of the floating world. All of these were,
Wow.
all of these. So the unreliable narrator,
Uh,
that Ishiguro is a master of the unreliable narrator, and
hmm,
especially in these other two books, in Artist of the Floating World as well as in Remains of the Day,
hmm,
uh, you uh, you almost want to really, you're almost like, there's nothing to not like about the protagonist until the betrayal reveal sort of happens, and
hmm,
that sort of was influential in terms of telling me, there's no need to box a narrator a certain way. A narrator does not have to be the conscience of the reader.
hmm,
A
hmm,
True,
narrator is
true,
not
true.
necessarily, they don't have to be very agreeable to the person,
hmm.
those sort of things. It was very,
In
because I
fact,
Wow.
in fact, this was a part of our question, Gaurav, that politics one and sociology one. That
Huh.
do you
Go
self
ahead.
censor? Yes. Go ahead. You go.
We wanted to ask you that everything is political.
right.
Even this conversation is political. Even what we do at work is political. Everything is politics. So, how much your politics, your personal politics, influence your writing? And do you sometimes do some self censorship?
Also, the
Uh,
sociology part, like you are masters in sociology.
Right.
So does that affect your writing?
Yeah,
Has
I
it
think in
something
the,
to do with it?
yeah. I think in the first book, I think I had the baggage of all of these things. Now I have another novel coming out soon. I've just finished it up, wrapped it up. It's a short novella. It'll come out
mm,
this
Okay.
year. And I think I've sort of started to deal with it better now. But I don't think you should allow in hindsight, I don't think you should allow uh, your hang-ups to seep in. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having a worldview, in the sense that
mm,
having a particular idea of, okay, this is where I align myself, and having your characters be sympathetic to those ideas. I feel like as long as you're standing on the side of, what you feel uh, is right, I think you will you that will sort of seep into your writing,
Mm-hmm.
and then your characters will sort of be trying to, in some way, however you want. I think it's sort of, so I wanted in my next book, I wanted to see how, if my old book was a macro world, in that sense that it sweeps through generations, it
mm,
runs through time. The the next book is sort of a real character study of just three characters. It's like it's like sort of take a microscope and place three characters under them, and then
mm,
that's the next book. How much ever I tried, how much ever I try to say that this is only a microscopic study, this politics is there somewhere inside,
huh,
lingering.
Yes, yes, yes.
You
There
know,
is.
what each person's politics is. It's there because it subconsciously slips out, and
huh,
it has, and I don't think there's anything wrong. And I mean,
huh,
I try not to give sermons. That is my now. I think in my first book, I also think the when the book was coming out, the world itself was so strange. There was so much that was going on. The wounds of this whole NRCCA were so fresh,
Hmm.
and I felt like if I didn't say something about it,
Hmm.
it felt wrong. Like it was my first book, and so I felt like I would have missed the platform.
Hmm.
I would have missed not saying something. But now I feel like things have also I've also begun to understand writing much more, and I also it's not a zero sum game in the sense that I don't have to play all my cards in one. It's not like I'm here to write one book.
Hmm.
True.
Uh, I don't. I have I have enough and more time and space now to play my politics, whatever they are, over my entire career. But I kind of understand
Uh-huh.
now, and I feel like this understanding will move me in a different way in terms of my writing. Now I sort of know people know my politics. People know where I come from already,
Hmm.
and so now I feel like what I write will sort of also be a little bit uh, uh, nuanced
No
instead of instead of it having to be in broad strokes.
strokes. Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
that is the change that I think between the two books that I find in terms of my own
Good.
political assertions and writing.
So the conversation is getting a little heavy. So let's lighten it up with
Okay.
a very simple question. How can I pronounce your last name?
Secret. You can say it however I want. That's what I tell people. You can say it however you want to. You can say gee, you can say gay, you can say
Let's
G.
G.
let's say let's say
G.
G. Let's
Yeah,
say
you
G.
can say G. Oh,
It's a very
Malala.
smart trick.
So, like,
It's a, it's a very smart trick, na? Everyone respects you. Krupa ji.
Krupa G.
yeah. I'm reminded of in those early years when Sonu Nigam used to host the Saregama show. He used to, if somebody's name ended with G, he used to always do that. He used to say, so and so G G. I.
Soumya Chatterjee ji.
Yeah,
Soumya.
yeah.
Uh, okay. Uh, what I wanted to ask you, another question is that Lalita was a Carnatic classical singer.
Mm,
So, how much you are influenced, or what is music's role in your life?
mm. Right, that's an interesting question. So, my grandfather was a musician.
Wow,
So that was sort of inspired by real life. He was a harmonium player and he was a unionist. He was a
wow.
unionist. And my husband
His name?
his name is Krishnamurti. Uh,
Okay.
so my husband is also a musician. He's a lawyer, but he also plays the flute. And so
Wow.
and so music is pretty much a part of my everyday life. I think that kind of is also why it sort of seeped into the book in that sense. It was around me, but it was mostly actually because of my education in sociology and
Hmm.
because of being in Chennai and having read the history of the city itself in those, around those years that Lalita would have been active. That is what informed all of this. Basically,
Oh,
we had Professor Karpaya who at Madras University who taught. I don't think uh, anybody could have taught the non-Brahmin movement as immersively as he did to us at MA Sociology, and I think uh, it had sort of it not only had I had some kind of an awakening in terms of understanding privileges
hmm.
after studying under him, but I'd also had a complete change of my worldview having gone to Madras University. Until then, I think you can clearly sort of mark my life until I met the professor, and then after that, and then who I was until then, and who I would become
Hmm.
after that. And then it kept changing, right? Sometimes I would sort of it would be it, it, uh, you know you can even sometimes forget your own political awakenings and then
Hmm.
get a little cushy and comfortable, and then something like NDA one can come and wake you up. So yeah, so
But music keeps us sane
yes, that is what.
throughout NDA1,
Uh, I,
UAP2.
I, can't, I can't help asking this question because two words emerged. First is awakening and second is Krishnamurti.
Hmm.
So I would like to ask you, have you read Jiddu Krishnamurti?
I mean, I have my in fact my own grandfather was a big fan, and he used to
Oh,
take my mother to listen to.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still a part of my. I think it is still a part of the book. Originally, there's a line about how she says spirituality is a dress hung out to dry. Like
Okay.
it's all a dry subject. In fact, that was actually I was inspired to write that after I heard my mother say that my grandfather used to drag her to listen to J.V. Krishnamurti, and she used to come back like, "Oh God, what is my father doing to me? Where is he taking me?" And she said, "A very dry subject." I remember her saying that to me all through my childhood, and that sort of found its way into the book. Yeah. So yes, I
wow.
have read Krishnamurti as part
Okay.
of I think if you are in Chennai, it's inevitable.
Oh,
From a particular sort of years, in those years, I think he was quite. You did whatever. It's sort of it's sort of like uh, you know Osho during a particular time. But I'm not
yes.
comparing the two of them. But what I'm trying
Hmm.
to say is that it was inevitable for you to not
Huh.
encounter it in the, you had to encounter
Yes,
these
yes.
things at some
Huh.
point or the other. Yeah.
So like just like a man, a North Indian guy in his 20s, it is inevitable for him to find a Osho reel in his Instagram. Like they have to find an Osho reel without any context.
Yeah.
They will make
That
their
that
life go.
that too pertaining to some specific and topics like
Yeah.
very
Yeah. Very. Yeah. Anyway.
one line in your book we were fan of, like we were discussed it like 10 times, over 10 times.
Okay.
That part where you say that god, dead and deities have the same role to play in the lives of living,
Mm,
that you turn towards them to ask questions like something like this.
right.
It's a great thing, like we enjoyed a lot,
Thank you. Thank
yes.
you. I can't say anything about it because actually I didn't even edit it much. It literally it's something that emerged from the subconscious. It's literally
Wow.
one of those things that just I wrote as it came to me
Mhm.
while I was in the throes of writing this book. But it came in one of the later drafts, not in the earlier draft. But I still remember keying it in and thinking, oh yeah, this is coming from somewhere else. I mean, this is just something that I'm channeling in now.
Hmm.
Uh, it, it's I mean, writing is it sometimes feels a little bit sort of mystical in that sense.
Hmm.
You you're not sure. It's a little bit of madness. It's also a little bit of blind faith in something.
Hmm.
It's emerging from somewhere deep inside of you, and whatever you're feeding, basically, you put something in, and then something else is coming out, and so
Coming home.
you're the, I think from the sum total of my experiences around that time, I must have uh, yeah, I think had a couple of hard, rough years around 2018 in, in the family, and I think going through that sort of experience also led to my writing of
Hmm.
lines. Sort of in some way, it can test going through something, coming to face with mortality. All of those things can actually uh,
Hmm.
bring you
Greatly impact.
yeah can sort of test your spirit in that sense, and it can
Mhm.
and then you're running from pillar to post. You don't know, okay, maybe this direction is where I have to be so
Hmm.
that something comes out in favor, so
Yeah. So there's one another thing in your book. I don't know the whole paragraph or the verse, but the crux of the whole part was that every woman becomes her mother,
Mhm.
whatever they do,
Right.
whatever they want to do. So where does this comes from? From your own personal
Funny, you know, it
experiences?
is there in my next book also. I think you guys are on to me. I think it is there. A line that is sort of around the same theme is there, exists in my next book also. So you guys are
Uh,
on to me and my life's theme. Um, but I but, but this comes from, I don't know actually. This is another one. This is one of those things again that I wrote these lines when I was writing this short story actually, and so it was supposed to be a conversation between a mother and a daughter,
mm,
and then I wrote it, and then after I wrote it, I think I myself was greatly impacted by it and the consequence of what I had written, and so I felt like I had to revisit that quite a few times.
mm,
Now that I'm a mother myself, I think I have a slightly altered view of motherhood. You'll see it in my next book. It's sort of
mm,
I have another point of view now to add. Not that my old point of view was not valid, but it's just that
mm,
an extra window now into the experience of mother
mm,
and my own maternal side and things like that. And so uh, when I wrote that as part of this book, I think I was trying to channel this idea that of once again confronting mortality in the sense that what are we are products of some sort of this quest for immortality, right? Something
mm,
to pass their genes on, and we are here from the prehistoric man to now. And so, you know, that life force, I feel like it is trying to, I feel like it will try to express itself in whatever its drives are.
uh,
Those I do have those kind of anthropological uh, curiosities,
mm,
right? So I wonder if sometimes I wonder if it was in my grandmother's DNA that she wanted to be a storyteller, and is that why I wanted to write a novel? Because there is no explanation for why I wanted to write a novel.
mm,
What am I doing? Like, I was a journalist, and there was no need
uh,
to write a book, right? So I keep thinking about where does this thing to do something come from? And I feel like there is some. I mean, I wonder if I wonder about the role of inheritance in that sense of what we
mm,
inherit in terms of. That's what the theme of this book is about, also, right? If you look at the beyond just the house, and so this whole thing of becoming your mother is also an inheritance. She's fighting a war of inheritance. Becoming your mother is a different form of inheritance, whether you are signing up for it or not.
mm,
And I remember in some fun women's movie, to move away from something so serious, uh, there is this line that I think it was the Jane Austen book club, if I'm not mistaken, in which she says, "Our mothers are ticking bombs, our mothers are time bombs ticking away inside of us." So,
uh,
you can say, just like
मैम
I was
आप
influenced by Jane Austen, I was influenced by Jane Austen book club, the movie also.
आपकी किताब से अगर मैं 2 सब्जेक्ट्स को उठाऊँ लाइक पीपल एंड सिटीज़
Mm,
सो बोथ चेंजेस ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम राइट?
right.
तो इंसान भी बदलता है और शहर भी बदलते हैं। तो इंसान जब बदलता है तो या तो वो बेहतर होता है या वो बदतर होता है। इवोल्यूशन के क्रम में हम अच्छे होते हैं या खराब होते हैं।
Right.
आपको क्या लगता है कि जब शहर बदलते हैं लाइक देयर इज़ द डिस्कशन ऑफ वाराणसी एंड चेन्नई एंड दिल्ली, जब शहर इवॉल्व होते हैं, शहर जब डेवलप होते हैं, तो वो अच्छा होता है, बुरा होता है? क्या है जो शहरों में नहीं बदलना चाहिए, जो रहना चाहिए? क्या है जो बदल जाना चाहिए?
क्या है जो
I would like
बदल
what should not change at all with evolution of cities or with people or in that sense?
वो I will attempt to answer this in Hindi since you asked it in
Sure.
Hindi. वो क्या नहीं बदलना चाहिए वो I think वो एक हर शहर का एक बेसिक आइडेंटिटी एक होता है वो शुरू से होता है तो वो वो आइडेंटिटी बाहर से कोई आके उसके उसके उस शहर के ऊपर कोई चीज
Impose.
थोपना हाँ वो नहीं होना चाहिए
हाँ.
मेरे ख्याल से वो नहीं होना चाहिए और जो शहर का एक और इंटरेस्टिंग हिस्सा है वो जो यू नो अंबेडकर जी के राइटिंग्स में भी और उनके फॉलोअर्स के भी है जो वो सिटी इज आल्सो यू नो a site that offers an alternative to the village which is you know which is so rigid in its social hierarchy. I'm not saying वो सिटी में खास नहीं है ऐसा मैं नहीं बोल रही हूँ सिटी में भी है और सिटी में भी वो in terms of even in terms of where communities are located वो सब है पर फिर भी वो villages से बहुत थोड़ा बहुत less rigid है इसमें वो थोड़ा relaxed है उतना भी rigid नहीं है कि तू मेरे गली में आओ तो चप्पल नहीं पहन के आओ उतना वैसा नहीं और वो this quality of the imagination of the city as a site of emancipation should not change and I think as women have received more from coming into the city वो Satyajit Ray का Mahanagar is one of my favorite sort of movies and I think that it beautifully explains the dichotomy of being in a city as a woman, you know, and going to work and the newfound freedoms, and then how those freedoms can go away from you and of a particular time. It captures that particular era very well. वो ऐसा there are some benefits to the cities I feel, and this over romanticization of villages that is not something that I have found, you know, to be. ऐसा मेरा I mean I don't have a connection. I'm a city girl, so I don't have a connection to any village in that.
Because you pick up the timeline of 1940s, so I'm bound to ask this question that whether you support the change, the entire change, or there is something which should be there and there is something which should change over the period of time. So this is where my question is coming from.
I think we have become less rebellious with time. In 1940s चेन्नई का आप देखेंगे तो वो इतना हर everybody was out on the street fighting for their rights. I think the idea of the freedom movement sort of also had spilled over in the presidencies, especially over to other areas. And it would be interesting to see बाकी सब presidencies में क्या चल रहा था उस time पे in terms of social movements. Because एक ही time पे यहाँ पे वो there were fights going on, you know, between different linguistic groups claiming Chennai to be theirs, Madras Manade and Madras Namade. Two groups of Tamils and Telugus fighting over the city of Madras. Who will get it? Okay, and then you had, you know, the Devdasi Abolishment Act was enacted around the same time. The Devdasis were being stopped from performing in temples around the same time, and then there were furious debates going on between various communities on why this should be done or why this shouldn't be done. There was the anti-Hindi imposition going on. There was also a Tamil Isai movement, which is basically in the Carnatic music world. They wanted to bring in more Tamil music and to promote more, you know, Tamil composers and bring out the pride in the language more. The Dravidian movement, the non-Brahmin movement itself was, you know, going strong around that time. I think in that sense, I feel like we have become less, you know, we should be a little bit more like those guys.
Even in Delhi, we had this, historically, Delhi had two things. People who are always protesting and people who eat a lot and sleep a lot. We have forgotten the first part, but we have peacefully, very conveniently maintained the second part. We eat a lot and we sleep a lot.
Yeah, I think if we look at our city's histories, we will come away with a little bit more,
Hmm.
respect for, especially for the the older cities that have been
Yes.
there, and I think their histories are very worth studying from around the 40s. So, so you were asking me in terms of cities, what should change? Have I answered what shouldn't change?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No, no. This part is still like pending. What should not change?
What should not change in cities?
I think the cultural tales must not change,
Yeah, I
which
agree. I
yes,
agree. Yes, I
which
agree. I agree.
which build the character.
Of this,
The tales which have the power to build characters, they must not change. They must continue over generations.
I agree. I agree. The ability. I think our the city's ability to tell its own story. So right,
Yes,
so that should, yeah, you're right in
Hmm.
that sense. So वो चलनी चाहिए, and it shouldn't. Uh, there should be space for everybody to say.
correct.
And I feel like in Chennai historically that has been a case. There has been
Hmm.
space for most voices in the city.
So, Gaurav, any something
Ah,
else?
okay. One thing, and then we will ask our last two questions. So one small question I have to ask: why Lalita had one finger missing? Why? There is
Ah,
no explanation in the book.
there isn't. It is a. I don't know if I should tell you or not, but I'll tell you that it is a ring finger that's missing, and that's what makes it the.
Oh,
Uh, that's what
Okay,
makes
okay.
it all the more interesting, and the fact that she can't bear children. Her ring finger is missing, and the fact that she says she's more dangerous than a man because she's a woman who
she
can't have children.
the children. Yes.
All of this is just to
Okay.
get an idea of the woman she's becoming.
Tell me whether I am right or not. Why, as a reader, we feel we are able to connect you with Yamuna.
I think that is actually to do with the fact that it is in first person. It's almost reading like a diary. It reads
Hmm.
you are reading somebody's diary, and in that sense, I think it's a narrative triumph. I will take credit for that. But also, I think because of the similarities in terms of profiles, because I've also said I also studied sociology.
Yes.
I was also, researching, and with her, I think people do sort of, there are parallels. Like my grandfather was a musician,
Yes.
and so people there is a chance to think that everything I've written is real in the book, whereas beyond these superficial details, everything else is actually imagined and rooted in some form of research and or an act of creativity.
I read somewhere that you have named Yamuna on the river Yamuna. Is it right?
Yeah, River Yamuna as well as the Raga Yamuna Kalyani, which
Ah, yes, the Raga Yamuna Kalyan.
yeah, both reasons actually, because
Okay.
it's a book set in the music world, and because I did have by that point I had like some connection to rivers, and once I thought of Yamuna, I couldn't think beyond that name. I felt like this was it.
So, Gaurav, one more question I would like to ask. Then you can end it, right?
Okay.
So I read it on internet. Like she currently spends her time arranging her toddler's toy shelf, experimenting with screenwriting, and working on a new book of fiction.
Right.
So this has been discussed. The new book of fiction. What is the screenwriting part? Like, what are you exactly doing on it? Or
So
can
there's
you tell
one,
us?
I worked with the filmmaker Leena Yadav, who has done Parched, the movie with Radhika.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I worked with Leena on a short film actually, and then I'm also writing a couple of. I think those are still works in progress. I'm also one short story of mine is being adapted into a screenplay by somebody else, and another I am adapting somebody else's writing, somebody from Chennai. I don't think I'm at liberty to say who, but I'm working with him on his ideas on dabbling in some things that will eventually, hopefully, end up on screen.
Okay. So, for just to end this conversation, oh,
Okay.
go ahead. Go.
I think cleaning my toddler's toy shelf is self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Yes. By the way, we are interested in knowing the name. What have you named?
His name is Ninad. Ninad means a good sound.
Wow.
Nad is sound, na? Nad, yes.
Yeah.
Ninad.
Ninad or Sunad both mean the same thing, a good sound.
Good sound.
Okay,
Wow.
okay.
Wow. So, just to end this conversation, I have last two questions. One is, if there is any question we haven't asked you and that you want to answer and you think we should have asked you,
Mm.
you can answer it now. Any question you think, ये रह गया, they should have asked me this.
Okay.
Anything, even anything you want to say.
Yeah. If I wanted to say something about the book that I had a lot of fun doing was at the end of every letter, you'll find a little bit about the World War or about Hitler or about Winston
Oh,
Churchill, uh, you know, something like that. And I think that was something that I had a great time doing, putting together. And the idea of Lalita's husband could have been, uh, influenced by sort of by the Nazis a little bit. Those kind of things. I had a good time researching those aspects.
okay.
In the 30s and 40s, and everything is historically accurate in the
Wow.
letter. And I went down many rabbit holes too. So if in a particular letter somebody mentions Winston Churchill, it really happened like that.
Wow. Okay. So for our last question, it's not a question. It's just we want to ask you for recommendations for books, music, films, or shows that you want other people to watch or listen to or read.
Oh, right. Definitely. I don't want to just leave you with this, Kumar, the film on Kumar Shukla. I want to give you the name of the movie also. It is called तो चार फूल है और दुनिया है. That is
चार
चार फूल है.
चार फूल हैं और दुनिया है.
फूल है दुनिया है. That is the movie on the writer Vinod Kumar Shukla by Achal Mishra. Streaming
Okay.
movie, which I absolutely recommend. This is something I don't particularly discuss anywhere because it's just like a private uh, pleasure of mine, which is that I watch an insane amount of art cinema, and I don't particularly post about it anywhere or anything like that. But if I were to recommend the movies of a particular filmmaker that I really enjoyed in the recent past, I would say Aki Kaurismäki is a filmmaker who I really sort of because of movie again, I kind of got into his films.
Aki Kaurismäki.
Aki Kaurismäki, he's
Kaurismäki.
a Finnish filmmaker.
Wow.
A lot of his movies are currently streaming on movie. And the French filmmaker Eric Romer, all of his movies, they're like short movies that are basically just about a relationship. And so, in terms of just conversation pieces or how little plot there is actually, but how he's able to sustain a movie, that. So I would really recommend watching Eric Romer and Agnes Varda's
Yeah.
movie Love on Her, which means the happiness, I think that's what
That is.
which is a great critique of her own peers who are making all these French films about men who have affairs, and it's a fantastic, absolutely fantastic film, and it is almost, I would say, imagine a social horror given the treatment of a rom-com,
Oh.
right?
Hmm.
Because that is what she's doing. She's doing a critique of the nuclear family, of the modern institution her family, but she's doing it in the way that all her male peers are doing when they celebrate the men being philanthropists, right? So I would definitely recommend that. uh, Leena Moneymaker from Tamil Nadu is a very very interesting filmmaker. She makes
Hmm.
like she makes it's almost like a guerrilla filmmaker in that sense that she's
Hmm.
making like she's an independent filmmaker. She's making films on her own, and I don't know if you know this. She got into one controversy over the Kali film poster.
Oh yes.
Kali,
Like
yes, yes,
yes,
yes.
yes.
I
So
know.
she has she has a movie out called Madati.
Yes.
Madati, that is the name of the film, which is a very good film that I would recommend people to watch if they can, if they get a chance. In terms of books, I would say, in my opinion, one of the best books to have been written in English in Indian writing is Jerry Pinto's M and the Big Boom. I'm a huge fan of his writing, and I feel like he has, in that book, I feel like he cracked a particular way of writing in English with an Indian sensibility that feels authentic in a way that you feel like you are sitting inside somebody's brain and observing the writing that is happening, and it's
Hmm.
not it it doesn't feel alien in any way or alienating in any way. It feels it has this lived in quality, and I absolutely love his writing. And as I said, I'm a huge fan of Vivek Shambhag's Charcha.
Yes.
Um, Bama, the Tamil writer, I'm a big fan of hers. I would recommend recently, what did I read? If you are looking for an interesting Italian writer again, apart from
Hmm.
you read all, if you do like Elena Ferrante, I would suggest looking into the writer Domenico Starnone. He is basically you Google Dominica Starnone and then you will land upon all the wild theories about him. I also liked Jhumpa Lahiri's Roman stories in translation. I kind of
Hmm.
also enjoyed. So Domenico Stornone's translator into English is Jhumpa Lahiri. By the way. She has translated his works from Italian into English.
Hmm.
Two of his books, I think. So that's the other very interesting connection there.
Hmm.
Jhumpa Lahiri's books are if I can think of anything else, I will send you guys a note. Maybe you can add it
Sure.
to the podcast. I also really enjoyed Adania Shipley's Minor Detail, which is a book about a Palestinian, two Palestinian
Uh,
women over a period of time. It's called Minor Detail. The novel.
Minor details.
Yeah, Minor Detail. That is another book that I really, really would recommend people.
And any song, any piece of music, any album.
Oh yeah, I would definitely recommend. I just finished writing co-authoring a memoir of a Carnatic singer from Chennai. His name is Sanjay Subramanian. He has an album uh, called called Anbenum Peraveli, which means the vast expanse of love. And basically, these are songs in blues and jazz and those sort of genres.
Uh,
And they are basically set to the poetry of a Tamil saint who preached brotherhood among people and who wanted people to come out of the caste system and
hmm.
sort of anything that shackles people. He promoted universal brotherhood. And his name is Vallalar, the saint Vallalar, and the songs are basically about love, and they're very very beautifully done as an album. I would definitely recommend that if you can listen to. It's a response. Basically it has been coined as a response to hate in the form of love uh,
Oh,
within the spiritual world. Yeah.
great. So I think this is a good point to end.
Great.
है
I'm
ना?
grateful talking to you guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you for joining,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Great. Bye bye.
Bye.